So you're considering getting into beat making, but you're not really sure which DAW will be best for you. You hear people talk about Maschine and you hear people talk about FL Studio, but which one will be better for you as a beginner? We're gonna get into that right in this video. Chill Squad, what it do? Welcome back to the channel. If you're not part of the Chill Squad, what are you doing? So in this video, we're going to use 7 different factors to consider when purchasing your first DAW between Maschine and FL Studio. These factors can be used between any DAW, but we're going to use FL Studio and Maschine as our basis. So the first thing we have to consider is accessibility. Your access to the software matters more than anything else. So we're going to start off with FL Studio. As we see at the top, you can try FL Studio for free. And by free, you can create an entire beat with FL Studio to no charge to yourself. The only caveat is that you will need to actually buy the software before actually using the products to its best and fullest capabilities. And you can start as low as $99 or go as high as $449, depending on where your starting point is. I would recommend starting at the $179, which is the most popular, because this actually gives you everything that you need. You can do audio recording. You have 1 month of FL Cloud included towards this. You have a full playlist of features, and you have different native plugins that you can use. I purchased the signature bundle because that's just where I was at, but if you even started with the FL Studio Fruity Edition, you don't get any audio recording, but you can still make a full beat with this. And this is a starting point, access. Again, if you're a beginner, you could go to the try for free section. And on top of that, you can still export what you created. So even though you can't access your saved files, you can still export the song you created for absolutely free. That access point is one of the best things a beginning music producer can have. Now with Native Instruments, you don't get a free trial that you can use to start off using the program, because with Maschine, this is a hardware and software hybrid. So you need to buy the hardware before even touching the software. So there's already a form of gatekeeping with the price before you can do anything. And that price starts as low as $269 with the Maschine Micro. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. If you are getting this for a child, I would say go with that. But starting out, if you want the full measure of using Maschine and using this to a place where it's at ease and you want to actually make this comparable to FL Studio, you will be better off going the $600 route with the Maschine MK3. Point number 2, learning curve. What is the learning curve to these DAWs? Now I'm showing all of this for learning curve reasons. I started making beats in FL Studio back in 2004. I had to go back to one of my older beats with FL Studio. I made this beat back in 2010, I believe, and I started making beats in 2004. And this is just me refining my workflow. What I would do is I would use the step sequencer to create my sample patterns and my drum patterns, and then I'll just put all those patterns into the playlist to make the song, right? So I'm going to play, let me put this online. I'm going to play the first 8 bars after the beat drops. And I'm doing that because hopefully I do not get a copyright claim or a strike for this. This is purely for educational purposes. And I'm going to show you all what this sounds like. This was something that I was able to accomplish by spending 6 years working on music. This was a refined workflow process. That process was simply to learn how to make my drums. As you can see, I have 3 different patterns of the same sample just so I could make a new pattern, as you was all able to hear. This was a workflow that I was able to create, and as you can see, it doesn't look nearly that hard. There's different things that I was able to do when it came to making this beat. In conjunction to Maschine, let's go over there. Now, the learning curve of Maschine is going to be vastly different when it comes to creating music, because you may not be somebody who learns the best with point and click. I started with that and I was able to apply that over to Maschine, but you may be a little bit more hands-on, and Maschine gives you that opportunity. If you have natural good rhythms with your hands, Maschine may be a better pick for you when it comes to the learning curve, because you can feel your way out to what's going to be better. So it's really going to depend on you which one has a better learning curve for you. If you learn more with your hands, I would say go in the route of Maschine. But if you're really good with using your mouse with point and click options, I would say go FL any day of the week. Point number 3, workflow. Now this one is kind of like learning curve, but I wanted to show you a little bit more deeper dive. Let's go back into FL. Now workflow could be very similar to learning curve, but the reason why I'm using this song instead is because this song, I was able to use some bass from my good brother Studio Nintendo, and he was able to provide the bass line to this. And because he heard my sample, he was already able to play out the bass at the same tempo as the sample. So let's show you how that sounds. So as we can see here, I did not unmute my microphone. So here I am just yapping away. But what I did want to say was it's really that easy. You could just drag and drop your collaborations within your playlist, and it creates an easier workflow, because let's say you had other instruments that were added in onto the project. It wouldn't be hard for you to put all of that in all at once. Now, let's go over to Maschine and let's see how this plays out in Maschine the same way. Because with Maschine, you have a little bit more options that you can do. And because you have the pads, you can chop up those same samples that your friends have sent you with your collaborations. you just heard was how this sounds in Maschine. And once again, we was working with my good brother, Studio Nintendo. And with this, the integration was just as simple. And you could do the same. I could have did the same within FL Studio. But as you can see here, I was able to make this into more of my own melody as well, which again, you could do in FL Studio, but the workflow here was a lot easier. And I would say the workflow, even if you was to watch my last video that I did on sampling, is much easier here on Maschine, because when I want to make a different pattern, let's just say let's go to another one. We wanted to make a different pattern. Like we see, this is one pattern, right? All I got to do is hit duplicate, and this same pattern, I can move to the way that I desire. That simple. It doesn't take that long, and I could manipulate this without changing up any of my last patterns. Or if I wanted to copy another scene, right? We go to scene, and I wanted just to duplicate the scene over. I don't have to keep putting all of these. As you can see, I have a lot of patterns in each scene. I don't have to set up a new scene and copy each one over. So when it comes to workflow and getting your work done faster, I'm going to give it to Maschine. That especially for beginners, because there's a lot of easier things you can do, even with the patterns. If we go to a pattern, this pattern, let's say I want to make this 8 bars. Now, this is an 8-bar pattern instead of being a 4-bar pattern just by a touch of a button. Sure, these are available on FL Studio as well, but it's a lot quicker to do. There's other things like note repeat. Do you see how I was able to alternate the velocity of each hi-hat? In FL Studio, after I would do the fill in every 2 steps, every 4 steps, I would have to alter each note. With Maschine, I don't have to do that. So I would easily say, when it comes to workflow, I would go with Maschine. But again, if this goes back to your access point and you can't get into that access of Maschine, go with FL Studio. Next point I want to talk about is the customer support and the tutorials. When it comes to this portion, I would say it really depends on what you're looking for in your product. If you're looking for a plethora of tutorials and you're looking for lifetime updates and support, go with FL Studio. For those of you who remember FL Studio back in 2004, I would even say back in even 2010 and 11, it wasn't really regarded as something that was industry. It wasn't an industry standard by far. In fact, many people called FL Studio a toy back then. Now FL Studio is regarded as a household name, and I would highly recommend, if you are a beginner, to go with FL Studio if you are in need of great customer support and great tutorials. Now, if you are looking for something that'll be better for you when it comes to the hardware, and you're looking for finger drumming techniques, if you're looking for how to make a beat using hardware and software, then I would lean more so towards Maschine, because Native Instruments has pretty good customer support, and they are still growing. They're not as big as ImageLine, but they are still growing, and they're growing pretty well. They have a really niche down community, and because the community is smaller, it's easier to get to know different people, and it's easier to learn from people in the community, whether it's people who are in the forums, whether it's the YouTube creators like myself who are making content for Maschine. You have a lot of people that you can speak to where you can learn a thing or two with Maschine. So that's what I would say towards that. If you need to choose between the two, which one is best for the beginner per se, I would lean towards FL Studio. But if you're somebody who wants more of a niche community where you get to know the people that you're working with, go with Maschine. Now, sound libraries is something that is important to every single person when they are making their beats. Now, as we saw with FL Studio, there is $449 to be spent in buying the software with all the plugins that they have in there. Not to mention, there are so many people who have drum packs that you can add and use to FL Studio, and integrating those drum packs within your software is super easy. But if you were just to go off the drum packs that you can get off FL Studio, there is a bit of a limitation there. The sounds don't sound as crisp and they don't sound as realistic as many of their competitors. Native Instruments, on the other hand, if you buy the Maschine Micro at $269, or if you buy the Maschine MK3 for $599, you can still buy some expansion packs for $50, or if they're on sale during the summertime or anytime during the year, you can buy some expansion packs for as low as $25 a pop. And some of these expansion packs are ones that I still use in all of my sounds today. So those sounds can make a big difference in how well your beats are going to sound. And I said this before in the video, no one's caring if this is a drum loop. No one's caring this is a sound pack loop. They just care how good it sounds. So remember that when you are crafting your library, how good is this going to sound? And to be fair, you can use these same expansion packs in FL Studio if you so desired. So that is an option too. But using the workflow of Native Instruments Maschine with these expansion packs, they flow right into the DAW, because if you have the MK3, you can select the sounds you want with ease on the hardware without going through any trouble at all. So the sound libraries are very strong with Native Instruments in comparison to ImageLine. Now for number 6, as far as the community goes, we touched a bit on this with the customer service and the tutorials, but I want to touch a little bit more on the community. And I'm going to start off with Native Instruments, because Native Instruments right now reminds me a little bit of where FL was 10 years ago. FL did not have the strongest community back then, but Native Instruments is on its way on building up. They're creating more updates. They updated their logo recently, which is one of the main reasons why I believe Maschine 3 is on its way. And with the expansion of this community, I would say it is better for a beginner to get involved with a community that is not as big, mainly because when you have a community that's large, it's easy to get lost amongst the thousands, probably close to millions of people who are within that community. Think of you are part of a club or a church or any organization, even your job environment. It's easy to not be remembered if there are more people working or present in that same community. Whereas where it's smaller, it's easy to get to know the people that you are working with. And if you are on this journey of becoming a music producer, this is something that you should do as a community. This is something that you should not endeavor in alone, because there are going to be times you're going to feel like quitting. There are going to be times where you feel like, I don't want to keep doing this. Being in the community of like-minded people using the same software as you does help. FL Studio, don't get me wrong, does have a good community, and you can find people that you can connect with, but I would highly recommend going in the route of Maschine if you want more of a niche down community. And the 7th point is going to be the growth output. Now, I have been using FL Studio for years. I still use FL Studio to this day, especially when I want to do some audio editing. FL Studio is my go-to. If I had to give you all, this may be biased, if I had to give you all what would be the best growth output in using these DAWs as a beginner, I would say FL Studio. FL Studio gave me the foundation I needed to jump into Maschine. If you decide you want to jump into another DAW at a future date, I would still say go with FL Studio, because it gives you the opportunity to still benefit from the free updates, even though you're not using the DAW consistently. I can't say the same for Maschine, because Maschine hasn't really upgraded from Maschine 2 in a very long time. They do give you free upgrades in the sense of if there's a plugin update and things of that nature, that they do. But I would say if you're looking at what would be better for you as a music producer, growing consistently and just learning from people who are using the same DAW as you and believing that I can do some of these same techniques, go at FL Studio. You will not be disappointed at all. But I'm biased. I'll admit that. I am heavily biased. I am somebody who has been using Maschine more consistently to still make music to this day. I even made a video just last week talking about how Maschine is better at sampling than FL Studio. You can check out that video if you are already in the hurdle with Maschine and you want some advice on how to sample. I would say go ahead and check out this video on why this is better than using FL Studio. And you can check out the other video too that will talk about some of the basic sampling hacks that I use to this day. Go ahead and check them out.